The entire history of the galaxy hinged on a single laser gate opening 3 seconds too late. In 32 BBY, on the planet Naboo, Qui-Gon Jinn fell to Darth Maul, and his death sealed Anakin Skywalker's fate. This story explores a timeline where that gate opened just in time. In this reality, the Jedi Master survived to train the Chosen One himself. The result is a completely different galaxy, where the Empire never rises and the Sith fail, so the prophecy is fulfilled without 20 years of darkness. The change begins in the Theed Generator Complex. In our history, Qui-Gon was separated from Obi-Wan and exhausted by Maul's aggression. Qui-Gon conserves his energy in this reality. When the laser gates separate them, he prepares a trap instead of just meditating. As the barriers drop, Obi-Wan rushes in seconds earlier, forcing Maul to fight 2 Jedi simultaneously. The Sith Lord is overwhelmed, and Qui-Gon lands the killing blow. Or perhaps they capture Maul for interrogation. Qui-Gon Jinn walks out of that reactor room alive and takes young Anakin Skywalker as his direct Padawan. He fulfills the promise he made to the Council by actually being there to keep it. I want to thank everyone who left comments on the last video before we examine how this changes Anakin's soul. We chose this specific topic directly from your suggestions because your input helps guide the channel. Write down your ideas for our next timeline below, such as, what if Obi-Wan joined Dooku? The most liked comments will be selected for future videos. Please like and subscribe to keep these stories coming. Dave Filoni once explained that the duel in Episode 1 was a fight for a father figure. Anakin lost that father and got a brother in Obi-Wan instead. Obi-Wan was critical and strict, while Qui-Gon understood that the code was a guide rather than a chain. Anakin's need for emotional connection is understood rather than shamed under Qui-Gon's teaching. When Anakin expresses fear or anger, Qui-Gon teaches him to process it rather than suppressing it. The boy who left his mother needs validation instead of just discipline. Qui-Gon provides the stability that prevents the deep insecurity Palpatine later exploits. A major change in this timeline concerns Count Dooku. Dooku had already left the Order by 32 BBY in established history, but he had not yet fully fallen to the dark side. The death of his former apprentice, Qui-Gon, was the event that drove him to Darth Sidious. Dooku has a reason to pause if Qui-Gon returns from Naboo alive, because he respects Qui-Gon deeply. Qui-Gon would sense the darkness in his old master and reach out. We might see a Dooku pulled back from the edge, instead of a grieving man becoming the leader of the Separatists. Palpatine's plan for a civil war hits a major obstacle without Dooku to lead the political secession. The Jedi Council refused to free Shmi Skywalker because it was outside their jurisdiction, and Obi-Wan followed these rules. Qui-Gon Jinn famously disregarded jurisdiction. He actually arranged for a valuable ship part to be sent to Shmi to help buy her freedom in the original timeline, but he died before ensuring her safety. Qui-Gon would not leave Shmi in slavery if he were alive. He would likely return to Tatooine within a year, under the cover of an unofficial mission. He frees Shmi and moves her to a safe planet like Naboo. This single act removes the main source of Anakin's fear by preventing the Tusken Raider kidnapping and her subsequent death. Anakin avoids the slaughter of the Sand People, and his heart remains intact. Chancellor Palpatine played the role of a kindly grandfather to Anakin because Obi-Wan kept his distance, emotionally. Anakin went to Palpatine for the praise he failed to receive from the Jedi. This relationship changes with Qui-Gon alive because the Master gives Anakin the praise and guidance he needs. Palpatine tries to influence Anakin, but the boy is not desperate for affection. Qui-Gon also possessed strong intuition and sensed the living force better than Yoda. He would likely sense the coldness in the Chancellor much earlier, even when other Jedi were clouded by the dark side. He would not trust Palpatine's interest in a young boy, so Palpatine finds himself blocked by a Jedi Master who refuses to leave his student's side. Life at the Jedi Temple would not be peaceful, because Qui-Gon and the Council would fight constantly over Anakin's training. Mace Windu and Yoda would worry that Qui-Gon is too lenient regarding Anakin's attachments. This friction is actually healthy for Anakin, because he sees his master standing up for him against the Order's dogma. Anakin felt the Council lacked trust in him in the original timeline. He sees that his master absolutely trusts him in this version, even if the Council does not. That loyalty binds Anakin to the light side. He does not need to look outside the Order for validation when he has a strong defender inside the temple walls. The galaxy typically erupts into civil war by 22 BBY. Palpatine might use General Grievous or a puppet leader without Dooku leading the Separatists, but the movement lacks the legitimacy Dooku provided. Qui-Gon would also likely investigate the Kaminoan saber dart mystery differently. He would question why a Jedi Master ordered a clone army 10 years ago instead of just following orders. Qui-Gon was a friend of Sifo Dyas and would examine his death more closely. The discovery of the clone army might still occur, but Qui-Gon would be far more suspicious of using a convenient army that appeared mysteriously. Anakin and Padme fell in love in secret because attachment was forbidden, and the stress of this double life damaged Anakin. Qui-Gon knew about love and possessed a tragic romantic past with a Jedi named Tal. He understood that love could provide strength. He would likely counsel Anakin on how to handle the emotion responsibly, rather than reporting them if he discovered the relationship. He might advise Anakin to love her, while being ready to let go. Anakin's relationship becomes a stabilizer rather than a source of anxiety with this guidance. He does not fear expulsion, so he does not need to lie. The Jedi become generals when the Clone Wars begin. Qui-Gon Jinn would likely refuse this title because he viewed himself as a keeper of the peace rather than a soldier. Qui-Gon might take a path focused on diplomacy and humanitarian aid, while Obi-Wan and Anakin rush to the front lines. This decision influences Anakin significantly. Anakin learns that being a Jedi means protecting life instead of becoming a warrior who equates victory with killing. He still fights because of his talent, but his perspective shifts. He fights to save people rather than to destroy the enemy. This subtle change prevents the hero from becoming a ruthless killer. Palpatine realizes his plan is failing by 19 BBY. Anakin is not isolated or fearful, and he trusts his master. The Chancellor must change tactics because he cannot wait for Anakin to fall on his own. He might try to have Qui-Gon killed by sending assassins or engineering a trap during a mission. Killing Qui-Gon now is dangerous, though. Anakin will hunt down the killer rather than blaming himself if Qui-Gon dies. He will seek justice instead of revenge due to his emotional training. Palpatine is trapped. The careful manipulation of a decade turns into a desperate need to remove the Jedi Master standing in his way. Anakin turns to the dark side to save Padme from dying in childbirth in Revenge of the Sith. He has visions of her death and receives vague advice from Yoda. Anakin goes to Qui-Gon in this alternate timeline. Qui-Gon would take practical steps rather than dismissing the visions. He would promise to get her the best medical care in the galaxy and protect her. He might even suggest they leave the Order temporarily to ensure her safety. Anakin needs a plan to prevent death rather than the power to stop it. Palpatine's offer of Sith alchemy loses its appeal when Anakin has a rational plan from his master. The Jedi eventually discover Palpatine is the Sith Lord. Mace Windu goes with 3 masters and is betrayed by Anakin in the original history. Qui-Gon likely uncovers the truth in this timeline, or Anakin brings the information to him first. Qui-Gon confronts the Chancellor alongside Anakin and possibly Obi-Wan. Palpatine tries to turn Anakin by claiming the Jedi are taking over, but Anakin stands with Qui-Gon. The duel places Palpatine against 3 opponents. He is powerful, but he cannot defeat the Chosen One and 2 Masters working together. Anakin sees the Sith Lord as a liar rather than a savior. Order 66 is never issued. If Palpatine falls in his office and the inhibitor chips remain dormant, the Jedi face a crisis after deposing the leader of the Republic, and the Senate reacts with chaos. Qui-Gon would argue immediately that the Jedi must step back because they cannot rule. He would advocate for a transition of power back to the Senate, to trusted members like Bail Organa or Mon Mothma. The Jedi Order survives and transforms. Qui-Gon uses this moment to reform the Order by pushing them away from politics and back to serving the Force. The clone army is likely phased out and given rights as citizens. Anakin Skywalker fulfills the prophecy by destroying the Sith, while his soul remains intact, rather than throwing the Emperor down a shaft after decades of terror. He likely leaves the Jedi Order to raise Luke and Leia on Naboo. Qui-Gon Jinn visits often as a grandfather figure. The galaxy is not perfect, since corruption still exists and the Hutts rule the Outer Rim. But the Great Darkness is averted. The Death Star is never built, and Alderaan remains safe. The Skywalker family becomes a symbol of hope rather than a source of tragedy. The tragedy of Star Wars centered on the lack of a father rather than destiny. Qui-Gon Jinn was the only Jedi who loved Anakin enough to let him be human. His survival changes the story from a tragedy to a hero's journey. This proves that connection saves people rather than systems and codes. Subscribe for more explorations of the lore if you enjoyed this look into an alternate timeline. The Force will be with you, always.